in Maine. Why must I chase the cat?
Good evening and welcome to Posse Presents. A little bit of culture shock going on here tonight. We've got new furniture in the studio, and it takes a little bit of getting used to. There's nobody I think likes change, and I am included in that, and so yes, there is new furniture in the studio. I've got no words, but anyway, we will carry on. For those who used to complain that all the black that I wear blended too much into the black chair that I sat in, I guess that's not an issue anymore after almost 3 years. So anyway, good evening. We were not here last week. Bunch of things going on, but we're here now, and that's all that matters. We've got to say a belated now happy birthday to one of my babies. Zach, if you will bring Bocce's picture up. My big boy Bocce is now 12. He turned 12 last Saturday. He joins Duke in being 12, so now I have 2 old men, and thank God they're not grumpy old men. And of course that's Gidget, the little barnacle on Bocce's back, because she's not happy unless she's on top of somebody, and that just happened to be one of those Kodak moments. Of course that picture's from a couple years ago, so yeah, Bocce's a little thinner, a little grayer, a little slower, but he's still a big baby, and he's my baby, and he's 12. So happy birthday to Bocce. I will take the camera back, and for those of you who remember my complaining that my computer had died, and an angel lent me a computer to use, but I couldn't upload the show, so I was behind a couple, that problem is now resolved, and both of the shows that I was behind are loaded up on YouTube, so that, you know, if anybody's missed any, you can go and catch up. I owe a big thank you to a young coworker who convinced me that I could swap out the disk drive from my old computer to this computer that I'm using and make it work. And lo and behold, sometimes when the chips are down, we surprise ourselves with what we could do. And with his instructions and what I remembered, at least what I remembered of his instructions in my head, I tackled it, I did it, I was able to load the shows. So thank you, Chan, for your encouragement and letting me believe that I could do it. And of course, you know, I was the lid off the computer that I'm borrowing and about to dig in and realizing that if I messed anything up with this computer, I was going to have nothing. So I had a moment of panic, and I'm not going to lie, there were a lot of profanities, but we are back on track. So thanks for people who do look out for me and help me out, because there's nothing like having a helping hand when you need it. And I'm going to get into some good news. Zach, you can pick up the pictures of Coco. For all of you who have followed her story, and many of us have, we worried about her, we shared her for adoption and to save her life. We rejoiced in what seemed like a happy ending for her. We cried again when it didn't work out. We saw her boarded, fostered, diagnosed with cancer. And now, thanks to the miracle of foster failure, Coco has been adopted again, and it will be her forever home. You know, Coco had a real long history. She went from being a stray to being in a shelter to being adopted by a family that just wasn't the right fit. She didn't get a fair shake with them. They surrendered her back to the shelter. After a couple of days, cried some crocodile tears that they missed her and they wanted her back, took her back, decided they didn't want her again. And, you know, where does that leave a dog who languishes in a shelter and runs out of time, and her life was hanging in the balance? And God bless 20 Paws Rescue and the lovely ladies there who stepped up for her, pulled her, found her what they thought was the perfect home. And you know what? Nothing's bulletproof. This guy seemed perfect, and his life changed, and he bailed on Coco, and 20 Paws stepped right back in. The guy had basically handed her off to a relative, and 20 Paws said, "Oh no, you don't," took her back, brought her back to Connecticut, put her up at John Gagnon's, and bless his heart for, you know, tuning her up and working with her and, you know, making her part of his family. But there was a family who was going to visit her, and they decided to foster her. And unfortunately, she was diagnosed with a mast cell tumor, and she's had a couple of tumors removed. And, you know, they just decided that they love her too much to let her go, and she will spend the rest of her days with them. So that would be Willie and Jessica, who finally decided that they would make Coco hers. And, you know, there's another person who played a huge part in Coco's story these last few years, and that is Marie Marsh. And I have talked about Marie Marsh several times on the show. Marie is an admin on the Rescue Coco page. She is a very strong supporter of 20 Paws. She's a wonderful, wonderful person, and she has been instrumental in, you know, making sure that Coco's story gets out there and that people know what's going on with her. And the most miraculous thing about this wonderful person, Marie, is that she's in England. She's in England, and she's championing for the dogs here in Connecticut. And, you know, it's not like there's not other dogs. It's not like there's not other stuff that's going on in her life. But she has made this commitment in her heart to our dogs here, to 20 Paws, to Coco particularly. And, you know, she's just, I've become friendly with her through the whole Coco experience. And, you know, there's just, I can't say enough kind words about this woman. She's awesome, and she has been there for Coco the whole time. And so thank you to everyone who has stood by this dog, and everyone who's prayed for her, shared her, anything at all. And now Coco is home, and that makes me happy. And hopefully she won't have to struggle too hard with her illness, because, you know, it's a terrible way for a happy ending to end, but at least she's got family now, and she won't be alone. So that's Coco's happy story. And, you know, for those of you who know me enough, you know I've written about her in my column, and I've talked about her on the show. And, you know, yes, I cried my happy tears because I cry at adoptions, because I'm just like that. But, you know, amen, and thank God for foster failures. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, really, foster failure is when you're fostering a dog and you decide you're going to keep it. So anyway, I will take the camera back, and we are going to do one of my, I'm going to read stuff to you tonight. For anyone who's familiar with the Yonkers Animal Shelter, they are a no-kill facility. They've had their share of losses due to different circumstances, but they are a facility that holds on to these dogs, and some of them have been there for far too long, and it's just not fair. You know, when you've got a facility that doesn't destroy animals, they end up sitting there, and people tend to forget about them because they're not urgent. So I'm going to read to you a post that I think says a lot. And they were very frustrated when they wrote this, and I certainly can't blame them. And hopefully it can help change some things. As per the Yonkers Animal Shelter, and this was a little over a week ago, warning, this post contains great frustration. Phrases that need to be banned. Oh, I only want to save a death row dog, and at least they are at Yonkers. We post the same dogs and cats week after week, but no one comes, no one asks. The shelter has many wonderful family pets for adoption. Currently, we have over 160 dogs and cats who reside here, who wait day after day, year after year, wondering why no one comes for them. It is a true testament to our staff and volunteers that these dogs are still full of so much love and not cage rage. The staff tries hard to give these dogs some quality of life, but living months and years in a lonely shelter is not the life these beautiful souls deserve. The shelter is concrete and steel. There is no grass beneath their feet, no warm, cozy spot to curl up and rest their beautiful heads at the end of the day. This is a municipal city shelter, not a 5-star resort. Our biggest fear is that many of these dogs will live out their entire life knowing better exists, like Hershey and Monty, never knowing a long leisurely walk on a leash, being able to chase a squirrel, or having a warm, loving place to lay. These guys are here through no fault of their own. Abandoned by their families for a multitude of reasons, they wake up each day with the hope today will be the day their angel comes. These dogs do not understand what they did wrong, that no one comes to save them. These dogs have grabbed at our hearts, and we won't stop going until they get the life they deserve. As I watch them romp in the pool, wrestle in the mud, or swallow a treat without chewing, you can't help but laugh. But at the end of the day, as they are led back to their cages with their pleading eyes, as the shelter shuts down for the night, you cannot help but cry. Yes, the shelter closes at 4 p.m., and the reality is these guys do not see a soul for the next 15 hours. Anyone that can help, please do so. There are so many ways to help. Adopt, foster, share this message with friends, tell any rescue groups you are involved with about our desperate situation. Anything would help. We have so many wonderful dogs. We will help you find the right dog for you. We have big dogs, small dogs, young dogs, older dogs, jogging dogs, couch potatoes, dogs that are great with kids, great with cats, etc., etc., etc. These wonderful animals have ended up here through no fault of their own, and all they want is a family to love them. Such awesome, sweet dogs, and here they sit waiting and looking so sad. We try so hard to find them forever homes, but many remain here forgotten. Please come to our shelter, meet some of these wonderful dogs, and please open your heart and your home to one of them. We can tell you all about their personalities and find a great match for you. It breaks our hearts to see them in these small cages, their sad faces, and the hope in their eyes when people visit. They get so excited to see humans because they want to go home. We would be ever so grateful for anything you can do to help. Thank you. We do not want the shelter efforts to keep them alive to be in vain, but sadly that seems to be the reality for so many. Yes, they are perhaps luckier than many because they are given the luxury of time, but again, what good is time if no one comes? Rescues don't come. Very few even have been to the shelter or network a dog for us. All rescues in the area work the death row dogs from tri-state area or down south. Of course, we don't want to see dogs lose their lives, but we don't want to see dogs spend their lives in cages. Fosters don't come, adopters don't come, cross-posters don't post. If you are not on a list, it seems you don't need to be saved. Ask the dogs if they feel lucky. I think you would get a resounding no. Yet, yes, they love and lots of Yes, they get love and lots of socialization here, but there is no place like home. I was never good in math, so could someone explain how no kill equals no home? These dogs deserve better. Please help us get it for them. Pretty please. We are begging. Yonkers, New York Animal Shelter. Now, the info for contacting someone is an email, lesliem147@gmail.com. That's Leslie, Lesliem 147@gmail.com. And, you know, when a shelter makes a plea like that, it's heartbreaking. These dogs do sit and they do languish and they do want to go home. You know, Yonkers isn't as far away as you think. It's probably about an hour and a half at most from Waterbury. You know, a life is worth the trip and love is worth any journey. So if you're looking for a dog, don't discount Yonkers because they're so far away or you think they're so far away. It's just not the case. You know, these are just some of the dogs, and I have shared Yonkers dogs before, and there was a Yonkers dog in my birthday mix. You know, it's just a really sad thing, and what they say is true about people get so caught up in the idea of saving the death row dogs, and forgotten dogs are heartbreakers too. You know, death row and urgent dogs should very much be at the forefront of everyone's efforts because their lives do hang in the balance. But it's the same thing in a shelter that keeps the dogs as it is a dog in a foster home. You know, everybody thinks, you know, everything's okay and, you know, the dogs are safe, so they move on to the next urgent dog. And, you know, when someone's fostering a dog and it doesn't get a home for a long time, it keeps that foster home from taking in another dog. You know, they're tied up with the foster. No one's interested, no one's sharing. So that person's kind of stuck where if that dog could find a home, if the dog would get some networking and some exposure, and you know, the same is true for cats. The fact of the matter would be that that dog would go home and there'd be another foster home open and another life that could be saved. So it's a big circle of what has to happen to keep everything moving and dogs being saved. You know, dogs and cats in no-kill environments and foster homes, it's just everybody kind of sweeps them under the carpet and forgets about it, and it's not cool. We have to try just as hard for the dogs and the cats that are in the situation of not having their lives hanging in the balance. They want their own home. Sometimes I think that the longer a dog or a cat is in foster, you know, they get attached to the people. They're facing another life change, you know. They're going to have to move to their next home, and it's going to be a big bump in the road sometimes for them when they're attached to where they are. Now, of course, that's not the case in a shelter. I mean, in a shelter, they're just going to be happy to go home. I'd have never known a dog that hasn't been happy to get out of a shelter, because it isn't the life to live, you know. As much time and effort as they clearly put in to the dogs here at Yonkers, it's not home for them. You know, they get to go out, they get to play, they get the love and the attention that the staff can give them. But in that post, it's 15 hours in a cage with not seeing anybody until, you know, the staff comes in again. And some of these dogs are there for years and years. How do you count for that? I mean, you just can't. So for those who are not in the market to adopt, can we get some sharing going on? I mean, the Yonkers Animal Shelter has a Facebook page, and they have, you know, like they said, 160 animals that need homes. If everybody started sharing for Yonkers, I think that some miracles could happen. And I'm not saying by any means to forget the dogs that are on death row. You know, every dog that enters a pound here in Connecticut anyway, their days are numbered, so we can't ever forget that. We just lost one in Naugatuck, poor Hershey, because all of a sudden he was out of time. They said he was getting kennel aggressive and, you know, going crazy there, and they just kind of, without any further ado, put him down. And there were rescues that had, you know, interest, and they were going to make plans. I mean, it just, unfortunately, when people don't move quick enough, things like that happen. And any dog in a municipal facility, any dog in a pound here in Connecticut is urgent. Don't ever forget that. But don't forget these poor dogs who sit day after day, year after year. I can't imagine that these dogs are still sane, and it is definitely a pat on the back is deserved to these staff members who go in there and keep these dogs sane, because a lot of them don't hold up well under the stress of being in a kennel and not being home. You know, I'm not saying don't force a fit, find a dog that's a match, but by all means, don't forget that there are places where dogs are just sitting there, not waiting to die, but waiting to go home. You know, there's urgency, I think, in either case, and Yonkers definitely could use a hand. So if you go to Yonkers Animal Shelter Facebook page, all of my Facebook warriors, just get out there and start sharing them. It's funny, I noticed that Rescue Coco, their page, is now well, she's always been sharing the urgent dogs, but now she's been sharing for Yonkers. And if everybody did that and brought some awareness to these dogs, they'd probably stand a much better chance. You know, can you imagine having all those animals and nobody calls or comes for them? Nobody ever stops by to visit? That's a travesty to me. You can't just sweep them under the carpet. And, you know, scrolling through these dogs, these that I have, and the cat here on the screen, that's just a small portion of some of the beautiful animals that they have. And if you go to their Facebook page, they give a little bit about the personality. They'll tell you about the dogs. And surely if you go take a ride and visit, you'll find out that there's probably just the dog you're looking for there. I mean, with 160 dogs, if you know you want a big dog or a little dog, or you know, you have some idea, they'll put you right in the line of the dog that's going to be probably a really good match for you. So please, people, go out there, look up Yonkers. I have shared their page on the Pound Posse Presents Facebook page. Share them, network them. It doesn't take away from the Connecticut dogs. It doesn't take away from any other dogs. You know, people seem to think that saving lives has borders. Saving lives, you know, it's zip code specific, and it's not. You know, it doesn't take anything from a dog here to share a dog there. It doesn't take anything from a dog here to adopt a dog there. You know, you're saving a life, and that's what matters. And once again, if you are interested in adopting a dog, finding out more about a dog, the email for Yonkers Animal Shelter is lesliem147@gmail.com. That's LESLIEM147@gmail.com. And there's also a phone number, which is 201-981-3215. Once again, that's 201-981-3215. And you really can make a difference. You know, sharing does help. Think about the sad lives that these animals are living, just sitting there from day to day to day to day with, you know, no one coming to see them. That's awful. If you're in the area, try to go down there and volunteer. I'm sure they'd love to have you. I mean, you know, I think that anything that can be done for these animals is a beautiful thing. So I will scroll this through, you know, one more time, Zach, and then I'll take the camera back and finish up because it's getting close enough to that time, and I've rambled long enough, and I'm sure you all want to see this lovely furniture I'm sitting on again. Oh, I can't resist. I love that face. That dog is beautiful. Anyway, there are the Yonkers dogs, and I will take the camera back. It breaks my heart to think that they sit there like that just forever and ever and ever. I mean, any dog in a cage is sad. Any dog without a home is awful. And pretty much that's what I'm here to try to promote is, you know, animals finding homes. So I enlist your aid in sharing them and promoting them with me. And, you know, if you're looking for a dog, if you know someone who's looking for a dog, by all means, adopt, because it's the best way through for everybody. There is an event that I want to bring to your attention that is tomorrow. Adopt a Dog in Greenwich has their, well, no, nice cue, Zach, but that's going to be, that'll be the final word on adopting. You can bring that picture back up. It's okay. I love that one. Everyone deserves a home. That's just like so sad. But anyway, Zach, while we're at it, you can pull up the Adopt a Dog poster. Adopt a Dog in Greenwich has their annual Puttin' on the Dog. It's a festival of fun. It is being held tomorrow, and that's from 10 a.m. to 4:30. That's held in Roger Sherman Baldwin Park in Greenwich, which is right off of exit 3 off of I-95. If you get off the exit either way, they have a lot of signs usually showing you which way to go. There's a commuter lot, there's a lot of parking. It's a little hairy, but there's a lot of parking. I haven't been in a few years, but I am absolutely looking forward to going tomorrow. They have a for fun dog show where they have different categories, traditionally the Pooch Who Can Smooch, Heinz 57, the dog least likely to succeed, and they do give ribbons, and that part of it is cool. They usually have a costume contest. They have a lot of vendors. They have a lot of displays. There's animals for adoption. There's rescues. I'm looking very forward to meeting someone who I've been trying to meet for the last few years, and who I'm told that is connected with a rescue that I would love to have come on. So hopefully we will be able to work that out. But it should be a great day, and it's down by the water, which is really cool. And it's usually always a really good time. You can bring your dogs, and of course you want to make sure that they are up to date on their shots, and they're well behaved, and they're on a leash. All the typical things that you want to have when you have your dog out and about. But it's certainly a fun day, and they've had some pretty cool people judging some of these classes of the dog show. One year they had Judge Judy. They've had some other celebrities. I know my old vet used to be involved, but it's a really cool day, and if I see you there, that would be cool. If you see me, I won't know you, but you'll know me, so make sure you stop and say hi. I will take the, I'm getting waved at from across the studio. I don't mean now. I'll take the camera back, and yeah, I'm still hurting over what I see here. Anyway, there's a lot of events that go on every weekend, usually. And if you've got an event that you would like me to promote, by all means, you can reach out to me, and I will be happy to do so. You can Facebook me. You can send it to Pound Posse Presents Facebook page. You can email me at pawprints713@aol.com. That's PAWPRINTS713@aol.com. I'm also very happily willing to promote any animals that you have that need to be adopted. If you're a rescue and you want to come on, if you have a foster dog and you want to come on, I'm always more than willing to entertain, having you on. Pretty excited. Next week we have a guest scheduled, and I think it's going to be a little different than what you're used to, so stay tuned for that. For tonight, I'm going to say peace, love, and dogs. And until next week, good night.